Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy podcast, where we are recording in person for the first time. Azul and I are both down here in Australia, ready for OCIC this coming weekend. And yeah, we've got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to be talking about the end of TCGO, a little bit of a note from the developers about the future of TCG Live, but also subsequently the end of TCGO. The CP requirement for Worlds was recently lowered, so we'll be talking about that, our thoughts and opinions there. We'll, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the cast. And we'll be closing out the show with the Oceania International's meta forecast, give our predictions, what we think is going to win, who we think might win. But yeah, we're down here in Australia. Azul, what's going on, man? How you doing? How's your week been? How does it feel to be down here in Australia?
Doing pretty good. This time traveling down here felt better than it has in the past. I don't think I'm really too jet lagged. I slept most of my flights. I had a layover in Fiji, and that was 5 hours from Fiji here. And I slept most of the time, the 11-hour flight to Fiji, 5-hour flight to here. So, and then I woke up at 7. I was a little bit tired around 11 last night, but I woke up at 7:30. So far I'm doing fine today. And this is like I feel like the first day, like it usually feels fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you're on track and on schedule. But then like this day and the next day are usually when it can get kind of messed up.
Because your
So
internal clock is still set to one thing.
yeah, it's like you're so messed up from all the traveling that
Yeah.
you could probably go to bed whenever on the first day, yesterday, and you'd wake up at a reasonable time no matter what. But now this day is going to be, I think, is usually the real test. The next day is usually the real test. That's how I felt at LAIC as well. Like the first day I was there, it was fine. Went to bed at like 12, woke up at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something, and then the next day felt really bad, really hard to get to bed, and really hard to wake up at a certain time.
Yeah.
So tonight's going to be the real test, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just got here this morning, so I'm still chugging along on my sleep that I got on the plane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes for me too. Tomorrow, I guess will be, I guess 2 days from now, if we're going by your metric, will be the real test for me. But yeah, that was the longest I've ever been on a plane. 15 hours was my flight from LAX to Sydney, and I flew from Sydney to Melbourne. So it was a pretty long haul trip. It was a pretty terrible travel day too, because I had to fly from Raleigh to LA, and then I had a 12-hour layover in
Oh my
LA,
gosh.
which was terrible. They don't let you, because the flight was so long too. I had to go get my bag from security. I
Yeah.
couldn't leave it there. So, and then I couldn't check back in until 6 hours before my flight
Yeah.
left. So I had to sit outside of security for 6 hours. Now, thankfully, one of my roommates from college actually lives in LA. Shout outs to Denzel. He came and picked me up, and we went and got breakfast, which was good. But he had plans like in the early afternoon with friends and stuff, so he had to drop me back off the airport. So I didn't have to sit outside of security for 6 hours, but I did have to sit outside of security for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
So it still wasn't great,
Yeah.
but we made it. Yeah, we're down here in Melbourne, which is pretty cool. And yeah, we're doing this in person for the very first time. So let us know any thoughts about that. Anyone who's watching on YouTube or listening on the podcasting platforms, hopefully the audio level is still pretty decent. The picture quality should be good enough at least as well. But yeah, we would like to do some more in-person recordings, I think,
Yeah.
like at other regionals, other internationals in the future, potentially. Um, and yeah, potentially try other things as well, like with the content that goes on in the podcast. But yeah, for now, today we're just going to be talking about all the topics we mentioned, and we're going to start by talking about the end of the Pokemon trading card game online. So Pokemon put out this. Yeah, I'm gonna push it. Don't worry.
All right, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna push the button right here. It'll show that Pokemon put out this statement on their website: card set development ending for the Pokemon trading card game online. So pretty much what this says is that Crown Zenith is going to be the last new expansion added to TCGO. And then starting with Scarlet and Violet, there will be no new cards added to TCGO. So if you want to play with the new standard format, once Scarlet and Violet comes out, you have to transition to over to TCG Live.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have, and everyone thought that it was ending March 1st. Like TCGO was gonna be shut down March 1st, but it's not what it said.
Yeah.
A lot of people just saw the date and were like, "Oh, or PTCGO is done March 1st," but it's not the case. It's just not getting any more new cards added. That's it. But it's still gonna be up to date. Like they're still gonna keep it updated, try and fix bugs if there's any bugs. There'll still be updates to PTCGO, but
Yeah.
there's will be no new
The
cards.
versus ladder will still reset
Yeah, no
every
new
21
cards
days.
come March 1st, but new cards don't come out until the end of March, April 1st time. So it's like there's going to be, even though it stops at March 1st, the only time we're only going to have to worry about it come, April 1st, end of
Right.
March, because that's when Scarlet and Violet comes out, and those cards just won't be on PTCGO.
Yeah, so yeah, a few interesting things happening here. Obviously, like the cards won't be added, but also I assume that means that like the tool errata won't happen on TCGO
Yeah.
as well, which because that's like a big thing that's going to happen with the with Scarlet and Violet coming out. Of course, tools will no longer be item cards. It's going to be like their own class of trainer. Um, so yeah, there's um a lot to talk about here with what could potentially be happening. Like first off, like should people just go ahead and transfer now? Like, is there any reason, like if we know it's coming in a couple months or like a month now, like should we go ahead and just try to transfer over? Or is there still more to do to try to get ready for a transfer?
Because basically, I don't think there's any reason to transfer until we actually get cards.
Hmm.
So theoretically, end of March
Yeah.
is like when you should transfer. You should only transfer once you want to play with Scarlet and buy the cards, and they're out on PTCG Live, but they're not on PTCGO. It's like the only time to transfer. And I don't think there's any reason to transfer until that time. Like people were talking about it, like should there? But yeah, there's no reason to. I don't
Yeah.
know. People are like kind of like panicking for no reason. It feels like.
I do think a lot of people just went ahead and transferred over. I mean, I think there's
Yeah,
something to be said for like getting used to it, right? And
I guess.
if you're not going to be playing in online tournaments, and if you're not playing in like the team challenge, like
Yeah.
I think it would be fine to transfer over. Like if you're someone who plays a couple hours a week or something like that, maybe it's fine to just go ahead and transfer over, play your couple of hours on TCG Live. But I mean, if you're someone who plays every single day, you probably still want to stick to TCGO for a little bit, and especially if you're someone who like plays in the limitless tournaments online and stuff like that. But I mean, if you are still playing on TCGO, and honestly, before you transfer to TCG Live as well, you should be doing things to get your account ready to transfer. Because there's like several things you can do. Having like a solid TCGO account that will help you like snowball that into getting more and better stuff once you transition to TCG Live. And the main thing that's talked about on the Pokemon website is having 125 packs in your account, like
Yeah.
sealed products. And I do think they have to be packs. I don't think like the uncommon chests work or like the
Yeah.
tins and stuff like
But it
that
can be
work.
locked packs as well.
Yes,
I
it can be locked packs, I'm
suspender
pretty sure.
coins.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Coins will not transfer anything like that.
yeah,
But yeah. So having 125 locked packs in your account will get you a bunch of crystals when you transfer to live, which is a
yeah,
really important currency to have.
yeah. There's no reason to have over 125. So just
Hmm.
open everything else
Yeah.
beforehand. Try and trade duplicates of your stuff because you'll only transfer over 4 copies of a card. The fifth plus copy of every card will just be lost. Like you don't get any
Yeah,
credits
it's
for it on the other
gone.
side or anything. So if you really have the extra time to do it, try and get 4 of everything, literally every card
Yeah.
ever. Because that way, any excess cards you get while you're in PTCG Live, those will be turned to credits. But if you have 5 Lugia Vs and you take that from PTCG to PTCG Live, you just get 4 Lugia Vs on PTCG Live, and you don't get any credit for the fifth one.
Right.
So try and if you have the extra time to like really optimize the account, getting 4 of literally every card that you possibly can is like the way to do it.
Yeah.
But the ones you should maximize first are the celebrations cards because that's what is it? Just the most valuable pack?
Yeah, so the reason we've maybe talked about this before, but it's probably been a
Yeah.
while. But yeah, so Celebrations is a super valuable pack on TCG Live because the way TCG Live works is there's 3 different currencies, and the main and most important one is credits. And you earn credits for any time you obtain a card in the game that you already have 4 copies of. So say you have 4 Kyogre from Celebrations.
Yeah.
If you open up a Celebrations pack and get a Kyogre from Celebrations, that'll get turned into credits right away. Now, how many credits you get for opening up a card depends on what level of rarity the card is. I don't remember the exact breakdown. I've seen it. There's like graphs and stuff people have made, but it's like 10 credits for a common card, but it's all the way up to like 125 credits for a holo.
Yeah.
And so the reason Celebrations is so good is because every card in the set is a holo.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you open up a pack of Celebrations, even if it just has 4 holo cards in it with no ultra rares or anything like that, no classic collection
Yeah.
cards, you're gonna get 500 credits for opening that
Yeah.
pack up.
Yeah. So I think truly the best way to maximize. Get 4 of every celebrations card possible on Pokemon or PTCGO.
Hmm.
Then we transfer 4 of each of those. And then the best way to just like get credits is then to buy 400 celebrations packs or just use your crystals to open celebrations packs on PTCG Live. And like theoretically, from where I'm at, it seems like if I use all of my crystals to open celebrations packs from here on out, I think I'll probably be able to go infinite.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I bought the 400. I have like 350,000 credits currently on my PTCG Live account from the 400 celebrations packs. So I think if I then just invest all my crystals into celebrations pack, I think I'll go infinite theoretically.
Well, I think part of the issue with that too, like why the in-game economy is still broken with the
Yeah.
game, and it's mostly because of celebrations. But I mean, I think even if you were coming over with just 125 packs worth of crystals, or like maybe even if you started a new account, it would take a little while, but if you just do the daily quests, you can get 50 to 60 crystals for free every single day. And if you just do the daily quests or whatever. And the only thing you can use crystals for is to buy the premium pass, which you should do. It's worthwhile. It's
Yeah.
like 660 or 650 crystals, I think, something like that. Maybe 850. Did you just fart?
No, just the chair is squeaky.
I thought you were just ripping it, bro.
No.
Come on, man. um,
Not yet.
yeah. Oh gosh. I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, if you yeah, so you use the crystals to buy the battle pass,
How
the
much the battle
premium
pass
pass.
cost?
I think it's like 800. It's 650 or 850, something like that. So
What?
you'll get that with a couple weeks of play
Yeah.
if you're starting with no crystals, and if you come over with crystals, from the packs, you'll be able to get it instantly. But then the only other thing you can use your crystals for, besides the premium pass, which you only get a premium pass once every 3 months, right? It's like once
Yeah.
every set.
Oh, yeah.
The only other thing you can use your crystals for is to buy packs. Now, it doesn't make sense to just buy packs, and I don't even think it really makes sense to buy like the bundles and decks and stuff that come in the shop, because you can just use your credits to make those cards
Yeah.
much more efficiently. But you can use crystals to buy celebrations pack.
Yep.
So even if you don't go out and buy like physically with real money, buy 400 packs.
Yeah.
You can still just go in and infinitely redeem your crystals for celebrations packs.
Yeah, and I'm not sure to
And
get 4 of everything or just get enough.
yeah, eventually you'll get enough. If you come over with 4 of everything, that's better. But if you
Yeah.
don't, like you'll eventually just start to gain credits. So yeah, I mean the in-game economy is just so broken. I think you probably need like 30 to 60,000 credits per set if you're just
Yeah.
on min rarity. I think is a number I've seen people throw out there. It depends on the set, like how good it is, how many of each ultra rare you want to get.
Like Crown Genius was probably like like
10,000, yeah.
less, like 2K credits.
Yeah,
It was
maybe.
like-
No, bro, you gotta test that Regigigas, like. Or if you're like me, you still like to get all the gold cards and
Yeah, there
the
you go.
alternate arts. That's where it starts to get a little
Yeah,
more
that's where it gets expensive. That's why you're out of credits already.
Oh, I've got 200K, bro.
No?
I'm chilling. I'm chilling. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to try to optimize. Like Azul said, like if while you have TCGO now, getting 4 of everything. If you have the time to do it, while it would be tedious, it would be beneficial because literally anytime you get a card that you already have 4 of, you get credits. So like, and credits is the most, the name of the game with TCG Live is just getting credits,
Yeah.
credits. So anything you can do to optimize that is really good.
Yeah, I think there's like I think LDF and OmniPoke both have a little bit more in-depth YouTube videos on their channels going over all of that, probably a little bit more concise and in-depth. So go check out their YouTube channels and go check out their PTCG Live transfer tutorials. But I think the big issue everyone has with this news is that PTCG Live does not feel ready. And I don't think it is from what I've played. And I'll bring this one up. This is the one that kind of my go-to. There's still no ranked ladder. I hate it because they advertise the ranked ladder. I say it every time. They advertise
This is your
the ranked
soapbox
ladder.
right here.
Yeah, they advertise the ranked ladder in their initial like announcement video to get all the competitive players like, oh my gosh, it's got a ranked ladder. And then it doesn't have a ranked ladder. Whatever they gave us is fake ranked or whatever you want to call it. It's just not a ranked ladder. So they don't have that. But it also just doesn't feel like it's ready. I mean, so theoretically, I guess theoretically, PTCG Live, like whether or not it comes out of beta the end of March will be a question, right? Because it might not come out of beta at the end of March, right? But everyone's going to switch over because that's how you can only play the Scarlet and Violet cards online, right? No one's going to stay on PTCGO even if PTCG Live is still in beta. So yeah, come the end of March, in beta or out of beta, everyone's going to be switching over to PTCG Live, like forced. Like everyone's being forced. And what's weird is like to kind of go with that is everyone's being forced to switch over, but the team challenge isn't supposed to end until like end of April, early May, I think.
Yeah.
So all those players are being held hostage on PTCGO, and they can't bring their account.
Yeah.
That's like such a mess, right? They can't bring their account.
And they're not even going to be able to play standard, right? Because Scarlet and Violet won't be out. If it's still going on in April, May, right? Scarlet and Violet won't be
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They won't be able. Well, the team challenge is in the previous format. So
yeah, but like it would, like the last round of it would be played in the current format, right? Like
is that how they do it?
Yeah, I mean it follows regular standard legality.
Well, I think you just play the format you were
for the whole time.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe so.
I could be wrong on that. Actually, I don't know. But they will be like Scarlet and Violet. Their account will be on PTCGO because you have to play the team challenge on PTCGO. Scarlet and Violet will be out, but only available on PTCG Live. But then their account will be held hostage that they would like to transfer over to play with the new cards on PTCGO while Scarlet and Violet is out online. So it's like a whole another mess
Yeah.
with this release of what or what at the end of March. So we don't know if it'll be in beta or we don't know if it'll come out of beta at the end of March. And then it just doesn't feel like it's ready for everyone to transfer over and start playing the game at the end of March.
Yeah. Yeah, the game definitely does not feel ready. And that's not even echoed by just like us, the people who are like super ingrained in the Pokemon community. Trust Your Pilot tweeted this a couple days after the announcement went out, saying that after 500,000 plus downloads and 7,200 reviews, TCG Live is sitting at a 2.4 out of 5 on Android. And the PTCGL beta has dug this game a hole that it will take years to get out of. TCGO will end its run at 4 out of 5 stars, 5 million plus downloads, and 142,000 reviews. So 4 out of 5 stars, honestly, is still like,
That's good.
it's good enough, right? It's
Yeah.
not the best.
I mean,
but
that's pretty good for like a thing like this because some people will download and just like not like the game, so you'll give it a 2 stars or whatever.
yeah, I mean, I think like the numbers of people who play Theme Deck ladder, maybe not as much anymore, but like whenever they were still making theme decks, is like way higher than the number of people who just play standard, right? Because people just download the game because they see Pokemon
Yeah.
on the game shop or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this is concerning, right? I mean, and I would assume the developers are concerned seeing this rating, and if not the developers, definitely higher ups. Right? Like people like should look at this and be like, what is happening with this game that we are making?
Yeah, I mean,
Why is our rating so low?
it almost feels like the higher ups aren't concerned because it feels like nothing has drastically changed in the way up. Although there was that, isn't that part of their announcement with this whole thing is that they're going to be devoting the resources that would have been to PTCGO to PTCG Live.
That is something they said.
Now,
yeah.
If that means they're hiring people from Direwolf to then work on PTCG Live, what I think it means is that they're not paying Direwolf as much anymore, and that means they're going to be either paying the people who make PTCG Live what they should have been being paid to begin with, like they're just going to give them more money, or what I guess it would probably mean is they're going to hire more people. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like that has to be what that means. I don't know where that was. I don't know where they said that.
Is
That
it
was
in
said
this
somewhere.
post?
It was said somewhere though that they're basically
Yeah, maybe on their Twitter.
yeah, shutting down PTCGO, and so we can devote those resources to PTCG Live. But it's not like there's the one team working on both. They're paying Direwolf to make PTCGO and run PTCGO. They got the in-house team to run PTCG Live. So if they're not paying Direwolf as much, input the new cards and all that stuff into PTCGO. That means they just have extra money, I would assume. They're not trying to hire Direwolf to help with PTCG Live. So that means they just have extra money. So I assume that means they're going to hire more people. That's the only thing I can think about. It's the only thing that would make sense to me with that. And I'm pretty sure they did say that somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but I remember seeing that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Up in that headline, it does say to devote resources to
Yes,
the Pokemon
okay,
Trading
yeah.
Card Game Live. So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a concerning place to be. It doesn't feel like the game is ready. But I mean, this is what's happening, right?
Yeah, it's
like
happening.
we're all going over there at some point, and I think like whenever everyone in the community is forced to be there, just so many more issues are going to be known. And also, like in the past, because there's been just a huge influx of players into TCG Live in the last 2 weeks since this announcement came out.
Yeah.
Matchmaking has been broken in the game for like
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks. Like people have not been able to find a match at all. Friend battles are a total mess as well.
Adding friends on there is miserable.
Adding friends is terrible, and then half the time, like you can challenge a friend and they don't see it. You close out the game, go back in. Like it doesn't matter. It's like so many of these things just don't like basic functions don't work. And also for coaching purposes, one of my students has switched his account over to TCG Live, and there's no option to turn off the timer in friend
You
battles.
can't turn off the
So I
timer.
can't even do coaching in PTCG
Yeah.
Live. I was just like, can we just use your brother's account? Like this does not work. Like
Yeah.
trying to play on TCG Live.
Yeah, it's gonna be miserable. Like I assume like once that hits. So I mean, there is a month and a half away. So yeah, turn off timer would be great for people who are just trying to like test is a big thing as well. With
Yeah,
that.
not even just for coaching,
Yeah,
right?
coaching,
Like,
testing.
people coaching shouldn't be like a massive part of their consideration when
Yeah,
like,
but-
changing stuff like that, right? But like,
People who are just trying to play with their friends
Exactly.
and like, test decks and stuff or
Mhm.
test ideas and like you can't do any of that efficiently anymore because you get dinged.
yeah,
But yeah, the adding friends thing is miserable. Like you have to add them, close your game, they have to close their game. You open your game, they can accept it. They have to close your game again or something. Like it's ridiculous to get added friend on PTCG Live, and that's just gonna kill the tournament scene. I feel like if this is still because like no one wants to play current standard when Scarlet and Violet dropped and rotation hits in online tournaments, which are still a big scene in online tournaments. People are going to want to play the new cards and the new decks in these tournaments. But if you can't add friends and do friend battles, I mean, the timer being on for those is fine. Yeah, it's gonna hurt the tournament scene pretty big for sure. I feel like, which will suck.
Yeah, I think there have been some tournaments in TCG Live. Like they've got an
Yeah,
option on Limitless now where you can choose like which game, right? Like there's like
there
an
it is right
icon to
there.
show, yeah. But I'm sure I think some have finished, but I couldn't find it on the other page. But
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Robin. I don't know if Robin was in my chat, but I like the day before these icons popped up, I was like, you know what'd be really cool is if there was like some way to just like see between which game is which thing, because sometimes people don't like have standard or whatever for their Pokemon tournaments and
yeah,
stuff. And then the next day, the icons on the left side showing which game is for the tournament that's listed there or there. So I don't know if Robin was like in my Twitch chat when I mentioned that on my stream the other day or not, but either way, another Robin doing
they got to
huge
add it to
work.
this page though. They got to add it to the
Oh, you
completed
can you can
page.
go to the completed
Yeah, you
page.
got to add it here. If it's on the main page, it's got to be added to completed too.
True. I got another thing for you. Yeah, a huge shout out to
Good,
Robin as
yeah,
always for sure.
absolutely.
Keeping the online scene basically alive single handedly throughout all the COVID and then still afterwards. I mean, I still love playing in online tournaments. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, online tournaments, you mentioned that, like, a massive part of the competitive community right now. You know, you've got thousands of people playing in these tournaments monthly.
What if that'd be a cool stat to see how many unique players play in these?
Yeah, I think you can. I think Trainer Hill
Is it
maybe
on Trainer
tracks
Hill?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be interesting to see.
tracks all that information. But
And like the VG tournaments have been huge on there too, actually, which is really cool to see. They've been
yeah,
getting like 300, 400 players in
yeah,
some of their
it's awesome.
tournaments, which is I guess that's newer for them because they just started doing that recently
Yeah,
with the
because
new
they just
game.
started having
Yeah.
competitive play for the new
Um,
games. But yeah, cool stuff happening with Limitless. But I think the question will be like, you know, you mentioned this,
can
like,
PTC's live keep up?
yeah, like how can Limitless tournaments online play withstand the the onslaught of TCG Live?
Yeah.
And right now, it feels like the answer is no. Like, I
We
mean,
might have to shut down online tournaments until it gets better.
it's only webcam tournaments or
Maybe.
the Limitless tabletop whatever simulator that he has, right?
Yeah, that's over
On
on the main
yeah,
site.
on main Limitless, but
What is it even called?
Limitless tabletop.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't really used this much. I don't know if you
This is what
have.
I mean, I've talked to a couple people who do coaching as well, and it's like this is my current solution for coaching when we switch over is to use this.
And just like you
Yeah,
both share your
yeah.
share your
Share screen through
browser or whatever.
Discord. So
Yeah,
this is like my for anyone out there who does coaching is like, what the heck am I gonna do when we switch over when everything gets pushed over to
you have
live
to import
because
a deck.
um we're gonna put like 4 Pumpkaboo or something.
No, pull a tournament deck.
um
Yeah,
yeah, so that's uh my current
solution.
solution would
Hmm.
be to use this unless they allow timers to be turned off on PTCG Live. Um because it's hard to like, fully talk through things and situations and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
But
and this is obviously like not the best, but like
yeah.
for it just being a browser thing, it's pretty good. Well,
Yeah.
how do I even shuffle this?
You
Oh,
just
it is
shuffled it. You
shuffled.
click on
Okay,
it.
just by clicking the button, you
Yeah.
shuffle,
This is the
and then just
hotkeys.
draw
One.
one. I guess could I just type
Oh,
7?
that's terrible. What?
Look at this
We're
hand.
losing all of our resources.
Robin, we gotta fix the randomization.
Yeah. This is as bad as PTCGO.
Oh man.
I would never have drawn this in real.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with it. It's a concerning time, but you know, it's happening, so we're
Yeah.
all along for the ride, right?
I feel like we were like it really sucks. I feel like the the further we've gotten to PTCG Live, the more hopeful it feels like we have to be, and more
Yeah,
copium we have to huff to like
big
get
copium.
yeah. But yeah, hope I mean they have to put it together at some point. I guess one of the big things is just how long it's taking for them to put it together. There's no way it doesn't get put together at some point, right?
Yeah.
But hopefully it's sooner than later.
Well, from there we can move on and talk about another big update. And so, you know, one big update a couple weeks ago from Pokemon, a lot of people weren't a big fan of, but then this update, it seems like pretty much everyone's been a big fan of,
Yeah.
and that has been the CP requirement for Worlds being lowered. So the threshold for North American Masters was 500, and it has now been dropped down to 350, and it's been dropped in most of the regions and for most of the age divisions as well. So a lot of people I saw online, it was like I saw people who were like traveling to Australia, and it's like they land in Australia, open up their phone, and like, oh, I got my Worlds invite.
Yeah, so I think this is for me. I have 2 Worlds invites now. I'm pushing for my 3rd.
Okay.
Well, yeah, lowered it. A lot of people are happy about this, and it makes sense. I think we talked last time we talked about this. I think we were both like, it's probably going to get lowered.
Yeah.
It kind of only makes sense. And the only people who I've seen who are like, I mean, it's good, but it's not good enough is everyone in Australia because they only have like 4. I think I saw that they only have total like 4 tournaments. I think. Uh,
Yeah, announced right now at least,
yeah.
right?
So they did Brisbane, um, and there's OCIC right now,
Mm-hmm.
and then they only had 2 tournaments so far total.
I'm
Or
not
they have
scrolling to pull
another
it up right
regional
now.
already?
There's
Yeah, it's
Perth
only been
and
2.
another weekend.
Yeah. Then they have Perth and then uh,
Sydney.
Sydney.
Yeah.
So they have 2 more regionals planned. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get maybe a special event or 2. I feel like they usually have a special event, right? Maybe I'm not right on that, but I feel like they usually do.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, but also like so many people get. I mean, it's 200 points, right, for OC
Yeah.
for Masters,
There's
and
gonna be a
like
big point influx
from
from
this tournament,
yes. If
right?
you get top 16, you literally just get your invite if you're from Australia.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a big point influx from this tournament, but it does seem like that most of the Australians don't think it's gonna be. It's
Yeah.
not fair. Like they think that, especially I think we saw tweets from Natalie and then Sableye about it.
Yeah, still does feel a little high in some areas, and especially because I mean, one of the big points of discussion I saw around this was like, does this mean that locals aren't coming back? And I think it
Yeah.
definitely. I think that if locals come back this season, it's going to be for just quarter 4.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I think the if it's going to happen, it's going to happen with Scarlet and Violet releasing. And if it doesn't happen, then it's not happening, right? Like, I mean, I think that's pretty fair to say. Like,
Well, Scarlet Violet releasing would be
quarter 4. The quarters are
well,
based on set
not quite.
releases. The quarters are based on set releases. It's maybe
Well,
a
the
little mess.
quarters the
It's
quarters are based on ICs.
right, and they do usually try to coordinate them with set releases, and it is a little messed up because
When
I
is the
think
UIC
like
this year?
set release. It's in the middle of April.
Okay, so 2 weeks after
Yeah,
Scarlet Violet releases.
yeah,
Okay.
or no, it's like in the middle of
Yeah,
April,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so it would coordinate with Scarlet
Yeah,
Violet.
okay, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. I guess the quarter 3 feels short then. I guess a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the
Well, but this
this is the
format
end of
feels
quarter.
endless, though,
Yeah, this
right?
one. Yeah, this is the end of quarter 2,
Yeah.
and then quarter 3 is between OCIC and UIC, which is like 2 months.
Yeah, so maybe a little shorter because it normally is like 3.
Yeah. It just feels a little short, I guess.
But yeah, I think that I mean, and this is all speculation. Obviously, I think a lot of people get confused because I like work with Pokemon a lot, right? Like I do the commentating and stuff, but I'm not a Pokemon employee. I do not speak for Pokemon. I do want to put that disclaimer out there. I do not have insider information, but just my thoughts and gut feeling would be like it's very unlikely at this point, now that we're halfway through February,
Yeah.
that locals are coming back this season. It would just be my gut feeling. There's a chance still with Scarlet Violet, but that's the one shot. Like if they're going to come back, it's going to be quarter 4 Scarlet Violet,
Yeah.
and we haven't seen an announcement about it, so I think that is pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it would maybe be definitely not for quarter 3. I don't think anymore. If we haven't seen an announcement
No,
yet, there's
yeah,
nothing coming
no
for
shot.
quarter 3. So I think yeah.
shot.
Actually, go to the point. What is it for Latin America? How many points do they need?
It's 200 as
And
well.
for them, they didn't have that many events either, though. Like I've seen,
No.
maybe I've only been seeing Australian
They have
players.
2.
Yeah, they have 2. They even have less, but it is easier for. Now, this shouldn't be a reason. This shouldn't be the reason for their point total to be what it is. But like a decent amount of Latin America players come to North America, or come to
Yeah,
America.
well, they shouldn't have to.
They shouldn't
right?
have to, of
Yeah,
course, of
yeah.
course. Of course, some people do it to try and get a little bit of a leg up, especially in like the
Stipend
stipends
races,
race and
yeah.
the travel award races, because it's not too unreasonable for them to make their way. Like there was a decent amount of Latin America players at Florida regional specifically,
Mhm.
or Atlanta regional. So, but yeah, they only have 2 on the thing. So, but they have special events too. I don't think the special events are listed here, but I think they have some scheduled.
I don't think they have any scheduled.
Maybe they
I
don't.
think they would be right here as well.
Oh, is this where they go?
Yeah, they're always in the same spot.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, no. We'll go up to the IU. They would just say.
Oh, see, also Europe special events schedule. Oh, maybe it is on a different page.
Yeah. See. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, but they see there's nothing
Oh, there's
listed
nothing for Latin. Yeah.
for the other
Yeah, so they have it.
regions.
They have it pretty rough too. Like I've only maybe it's because I didn't really like think about the Latin America players, but I just saw the tweets from the Australian players, and I was like, okay, yeah, it doesn't seem great. 200 points still. You don't have that many events. But Latin America has it just as rough, I think, overall for sure. So yeah, I mean, it still seems pretty rough for a lot of people to be getting their invites. It's going to be tough. And then I guess when we're talking about locals, yeah, I don't think locals are going to be coming back. It doesn't seem like it, right? I don't think.
It seems very unlikely, and it may be one of the reasons why we've talked about PEM a couple of times, but it does seem like
I don't know if we talked about it yet, actually.
no, we have talked. We've just talked about it, like hinted at it a little
Okay,
bit, like
okay.
talk. We haven't gone in depth about it at all, but it's Pokemon's new tournament software,
What does that stand
PEM.
for? Professor
It's like
Emergency.
Pokemon. I don't remember. I saw some. There's an article about it on the Pokemon website, but yeah, I mean, I just saw Alex Szymanski played in a 1K this weekend, a local tournament, and he said round two has been paired 3 separate times. I don't think PEM is ready.
Yeah,
Like,
and maybe that's the reason for locals not coming back. Because like quarter three was my prediction, like last year, a while ago, and obviously that's not happening.
yeah,
And that seems reasonable for the where everything is kind of in the world. Regionals are being run pretty frequently. Um, and then now we have what's it called Pokemon Event Manager,
Pokemon Event Manager.
PEM.
Yeah, I remember seeing this tweet. I wanted to pull it up.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't seem ready at all. I've heard other people having a ton of problems with it as well. And I think this is another program that TPCI is building in-house, which they don't have a good track record of.
In
As
theory, it
usual.
should be a very good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they can handle things quicker and like, if the Pokemon Company is in-house developing all of these softwares that are very specific to their tournaments, very specific to their community. In theory, they could make it perfect, like or make it
Yeah.
like really, 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 really well for what their specific needs are. But it feels like some of the specific needs have been misidentified. Like
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
They're struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, they don't have a good track record for this now. So everyone's gonna be cringing if they ever announce something else being made in-house, any kind of program or software in the
Yeah, we were
future.
so excited whenever TCG Live initially got announced. It's like, yes, the in-house Pokemon
Yeah,
TCG
it seems like
game.
it could have been a dub for it to be in-house, which at the end of the day, I think it was probably an L. If you had talked to maybe people who were like actually in developing the software and stuff, then maybe would have told you, this doesn't sound like the greatest move, because like there's like if they're not really truly experienced in like making games like that, and yeah, now PEM, I mean PEM could be the reason, and maybe that's why they're shifting up to CP as well. Maybe they wanted to bring back local events for quarter three, couldn't because of PEM just not being a functioning program, and now they have to lower the CP part, which is fine as long as they make it like reasonable to get the worlds. That's the biggest thing at the end of the day. But they got to bring back locals events. It's such a big part of the growth of the game is local events, so they got to bring them
Yeah,
in like sooner than later.
especially for kids. I think that's a big
Yeah,
part of it.
I think that's why seniors and juniors numbers are so. There was I talked to someone who was in was it VGC, a senior, or the parent of a senior, and there was 28 masters or 28 seniors in VGC, I think, at San Diego, they said, and there was also 28 in VGC at Orlando, which kind of shocked me. I don't know if that matters too much for local stuff because it's VGC. I don't know how that's going,
Yeah,
but that was actually such a surprise because Orlando was so huge. I was like, how is there only 28?
yeah, I think that the numbers for VG have always been a bit lower.
Well, yeah, but they had like 800 masters there.
Yeah, but compared to like TCG, like if we're having 1,000 masters, like at peak, like you would see maybe 150 seniors, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't think
maybe
that
we only had like 112 seniors or something at
yeah, in
Orlando,
Orlando when
which I
we
thought
had
we'd have more.
1,500, yeah. So like, but I mean, I think the growth of the junior and senior division in TCG is definitely lower. Like it's way lower than where it was pre-COVID for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And a big part of that is because there's no local events. There's
yeah, I
no
think so.
parents taking their kids to card shops for a Pokemon day where they're learning how to play the game
Yeah,
and
just
then
getting into it.
they're getting into it. Yeah, exactly. Like that's not happening right now, right?
Yeah,
Because like there's no local tournaments, so like there's less incentive for people to even run like there's a couple card shops in my area that have like a Pokemon night, but it's not like an official Pokemon league
yeah,
because there's
yeah,
no like real incentive for them to have an official Pokemon league.
yeah,
They get some like official, like they get the Series One, um, like play Pokemon
yeah,
packs or whatever, which is cool and stuff. But like, from a store standpoint, they don't feel the need to like, I don't know, they don't feel like there's something worth pursuing as far as like
yeah.
having official Pokemon events at their store because there is no like championship points that would bring players into their store right now.
Yeah, there's a ton of like, I mean, yeah, it's interesting too because like there's a ton of Masters players who got into Pokemon over COVID.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the amount
But
of
it
people
was
I've
all
met.
because of like online and content
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But like,
And
there's
then
no
all
juniors and seniors really got
yeah,
into it over COVID, which I guess like yeah, they'd rather go play Fortnite or something else than like
yeah,
just like yeah, because like picking up a game like PTCGO and like actually physically going your way to play an old game like PTCGO and actually play it, it feels like it definitely Yeah, I don't think
Who knows?
many kids are going to go out of their way to try and do that. So it kind of makes sense, I guess, in that regard. But yeah, we need locals.
We need them. We need them. So I mean, it is extremely disappointing that we are likely going to go through this entire season without them. Right?
Yeah. And that's
It
what
was
it
disappointing
seems.
enough that we went through 2022 without them. It's like a little more understandable, right? But
Yeah.
like at this point, man, it's like almost inexcusable. It feels like it's tough. I mean, I know there's reasons behind all of these decisions,
I mean, it could
and I'm
just be
sure
like,
there are people at Pokemon who like
yeah.
there are people at Pokemon who understand how important it is for a local scene to be like how important local scenes are to the growth of the game overall. And there are people at Pokemon who so badly want to bring them back, but for just whatever reason, it just hadn't happened yet.
I think for me, to be honest, I didn't really think about it too much until we kind of talked about it. But it probably is just PEM. Like if the software, they don't. I don't know why they couldn't just use the old software, but like maybe
Yeah.
they can't get them to like work
I mean,
together.
they use Tom, the old software
Yeah.
for regionals and ICs, right? So like,
Do they? Is that where? Why are we using something with Arcanine or is it
it's
just
through
region?
Tom.
It's
It's
just
through
Tom. Okay.
Tom.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't just use Tom, but now it's like the only thing I can think about is like maybe that is just why like they wanted to use PEM. It's not working, so they're just gonna wait until it works. They're not gonna bring back locals, maybe.
Yeah. All right, Azul, I think it is time to move on from that and into Guess That Flavor Text, where each week one of the two of us will pick a card and read the flavor text from it. The other host has to guess what that card is. And you get the opportunity to get a couple. Are you taking some notes?
I'm just scribbling.
Get to use a couple of lifelines potentially if you would like to. If you get it correct without using any lifelines, you get 4 points. For each lifeline used, you lose a point. And the lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. We are currently tied still. And it is my turn to pick a card for Azul. I have one picked out. And yeah, are you ready, Azul?
I'm ready.
See if you can get ahead this week. All right. This carefree Pokemon has an easygoing nature. While swimming, it always bumps into boat holes.
All right, go ahead one more time.
This carefree Pokemon has an easygoing nature. While swimming, it always bumps into boat holes.
Holes.
Yeah, sorry.
I think I've actually read this one before. I've heard this one before. I read this one before. It sounds familiar. Pokemon swimming into boat holes. Um, I don't know what the Pokemon is off the top of my head. I think it's maybe Spheal or Dugong. And I think so. I played the Dugong deck when it first came out, so I maybe read Spheal's flavor text, so it could be Spheal. I'm trying to think of, like other
I do
Pokemon.
feel obligated to tell you that Spheal is not from the same evolution line as Dugong.
Oh wait, what one did Dugong evolves from? No, I'm stuck. So Spheal evolves into. Oh my gosh, now I'm stuck. So there's Dugong, and a Dugong evolves from. Oh my gosh. Spheal evolves into Seal, right? Isn't it just called Seal? No. That's the old one. Seal's the old one, right? No, but there's a Pokemon named Seal
Yeah.
who evolves into Spheal. No, Seal evolves into Dugong.
There you go.
But there's a Seal in a Spheal.
Yes.
There's a Pokemon named Spheal.
Yes.
And there's a Pokemon named Seal.
Yes.
And Seal evolves into Dugong.
Yes. You
Okay, what are the Pokemon swim around and bump into? Because I don't think it's anything like a Jellicent or something. That wouldn't make sense for that to be swimming around and bumping in. So I'm assuming it's a
You
water
do
type
have
Pokemon.
some lifelines you can
Yeah.
use.
The other thing I'm thinking about for some reason is Quagsire. Um, it's not Wooper though, I don't think. So I'm gonna. What stage is the Pokemon? Let's go with that.
It is a stage 1.
So I could see it being Quagsire. Quagsire is kind of a derpy looking Pokemon. Is Quagsire really out in the? We'll read it again because I don't think Quagsire's like in the ocean.
This carefree Pokemon has an easygoing nature.
It does sound like Quagsire.
While swimming, it always bumps into boat holes.
This really sounds like Quagsire. Quagsire looks like a Pokemon with a carefree nature, just kind of chilling. I don't want to really use another lifeline, but I think I'll use one more just to try and get in the right realm. So let's go with what set the card is from.
It is from Dragon Majesty.
Dragon. Oh, Quagsire.
It is Quagsire.
Yeah. Yes. Let's go.
I thought you were gonna get all hung up on the seal.
No.
Spheal, Dugong. So by the way, Spheal evolves into Celio, and Celio evolves into Walrein.
Celio.
Yeah.
Celo.
Celo. It's Celio, isn't it?
I think it's like CeeLo, though. I don't think it's like Celio.
Celio.
Yeah, I was pretty set on what's it called at that point, and I knew. Well, I actually wasn't too sure if I'd ask what's set, but I know the Quagsire in
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
best Quagsire ever, probably.
And
Um,
look at you, saying that the
that's
let's set the
help me.
card.
Yeah, once the Dragon's Majesty, I knew it. I was like, that's
You locked it
yeah,
in right
yeah.
away.
That one. Well, Dragon's Majesty is such a small set.
Yeah.
There's like,
I always want to give you ones that I feel like you can get if you need the help.
I
But
have had some ones that I should have been getting like 4 points on. Ice Cube
the
and
comments were so funny after the Deoxys episode.
that one was rough.
Yeah.
But we got the Quags. All right, I'm up two. I'm up two. All right. So maybe the
Not
first
for
time.
long.
Not for long. Yeah, you'll get your revenge next week.
I'll try, at least. I'll try.
But yeah, let's talk about. We're here in Australia. OCIC is this weekend.
It does feel weird as well. We're in Australia. The hotel room setup is not the best. Like the view that you guys are seeing is just the back of the hotel.
Yeah.
But like we see the Melbourne skyline and stuff out here. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
you had a nice view from your.
yeah, a nice view right now. But yeah, beautiful. I mean, I love the fact that it's 80 degrees outside. Like
Yeah.
you don't
It
like
was so nice on. When did I get here? Monday.
yeah.
When I got here Monday, yesterday, it was so nice. It was like 60, 65 or something. I was like, oh, this is great. And I was like, and I remember looking at the temperature, like coming here. I was like, it's supposed to be like 80, 75, 80 the whole week. I think it's supposed to get up to 90 today or tomorrow or something, which is unfortunate. But I was like, oh, this feels great. Is this what like, 70, 80 really feels like? And then we checked the temperatures like 65. I was like, oh no, it's about to get bad over the next. But
Too
thankfully,
hot.
our hotel is connected to the venue.
Yeah.
Or basically, I don't have to go outside if I don't want to, if it's too hot. But I did go on a walk this morning. It was pretty cool this morning. So I went on a walk about. But yeah, we're here. Tournaments this weekend. And I guess the first place we should start is Lugia.
Makes sense as the place to start. And yeah, we've been in this format for a while now. We did get Crown Zenith, but we like it's kind of a sore subject at this point. Didn't add
Yeah.
much. The meta's pretty much the same. And it feels like ever since LAIC, there's been this continuing cycle with Lugia, right? Lugia absolutely dominated LAIC. And then we look into like the Toronto weekend, where in Toronto, and then the other regionals that took place that weekend, I think it was like the Stuttgart and the Brisbane weekend as well. The meta was dominated by counter decks like Control, and then the Paralysis stuff, Flaffy
Yeah.
Box or Articuno things. Like people found ways to counter the way people had built their Lugia lists. And then Lugia people started adding in techs and counters. Like obviously for Toronto, the Bradner group came with the Espeon, which was really good for that weekend. But then from there, people started adding the Bird Keeper, which was kind of a staple, it felt like, for a while. Then the Paralysis stuff kind of died down. And then, Control kind of died down. But then we saw, Sander a couple weeks ago came out with the Control. You guys played Control to Orlando last weekend. A couple weekends ago, I guess now. And the Paralysis stuff started to pop up a little bit more as well. People were dropping the Bird Keepers from their Lugias. Neither of the top two lists had Bird Keeper, right, in Orlando. Where are we at in the Lugia cycle right now, right? This continuous cycle of like Lugia's OP, Lugia doesn't make any top 8s, or like has just 2 top 8s, Lugia is like 5 out of the top 8.
Yeah.
What the heck is happening?
What was the tournament before San Diego? It was,
or
before Orlando was San Diego, right?
Yeah, before Orlando was San Diego, and in San Diego there was
it was a Reggie, a
yeah.
Lost Box,
It was like
Lost
Rays,
Rays,
3, I think.
1 Lost Ray, a Vika Vault.
And there was Arlington just before that as well.
And Arlington was dominated by Lugia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels a little bit weird when Lugia doesn't. I mean, like you can look at San Diego to Orlando, and it's like,
there's only one Lugia in the top 8.
Yeah, a lot of Lost
San
Box
Diego.
decks.
Yeah.
Mew. I mean, there's a good mix, right? There's an Arctura. There's a good mix. I mean, to look at like those tournaments, to be honest, I mean, you could look at like, Radner and crew chose not to play Lugia at San Diego. Most of them played Reggie. John still played Lugia. And then come Orlando, they go back to Lugia, and then they're 3 of the top 8. So right, that's like a pretty big influence already. You can see the influence that that group has on the North American regionals right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's a big, like if they chose to not play Lugia again, there probably would have been less of them.
I mean, if we look at Arlington, John is in here in top 8, but like, we have Connor Fenton,
of course,
Liam Halliburton, Riley Holbert, like
they're not the only people who impact it, but like that's a pretty big, them choosing to play Lugia, I think has a big impact on 6 Lugia. When 3 of them make it, 6 Lugia being in top 8 of Orlando, them choosing to play Lugia for that event definitely has an impact on it, right? But I think we've kind of gotten to the point where the tricks, there's like no new tricks to throw at Lugia. So it's just like, do you think people will play the tricks anymore? Like before the
And if you're
like,
playing tricks, which tricks are you including as well, right?
yeah,
Like, are
like
we adding the colognes? Yeah, that was another part of the cycle we didn't even talk about was like cologne and stuff
oh
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
too, right?
But like going from Toronto weekend where a bunch of non-Lugia decks were dominating all three of those regionals that weekend. That's because Lugia players didn't know about all the tricks. But I think the tricks are exhausted at this point, right? Like the paralysis stuff is known, control is known. There's nothing new uh, throw at them. It's just like, what do the Lugia players choose to deck for? And now we have like the Cologne, right, as well. The Cologne deals with Arcus Duraludon and Aerodactyl super well. So all of the options, all the decks that people can throw at the Lugia players are known, and all the tricks that Lugia needs to beat all of those options are known. And I think after Orlando, people are definitely looking at stuff like paralysis decks a little bit more because there was such a lack of Birdkeeper at those lists, but also in San Diego there was a pretty big lack of Birdkeeper. And Liverpool, that's the one I'm missing. Yeah,
Mhm.
Liverpool, there's a big lack of Birdkeeper as well. So I think people are definitely looking at paralysis a little bit more this weekend as the Lugia players, and then as people who are choosing not to play Lugia as well. So now it's going to come down to how many people actually show up with the Zekroms and Articunos, and how many Lugias actually show up with Birdkeepers. I think Birdkeeper's like basically the only real. If you do play Iridice, you play Switch or again. Gustavo played an Escape Rope in his Lugia at. I played against him in like round
In
7
Orlando.
or yeah, round 8 in Orlando. So he had the Irida plus an Escape Rope in there. So if you want to keep the Irida around, you could go with a Switch card or Escape Rope. But if you don't rock the Irida, then throw back in the Birdkeeper probably.
Yeah, the rope can actually. There's times like in the mirror match where it can be really strong
Yeah.
too, because sometimes they only have one active and then just a Lugia on the bench because it's not super likely turn two for the Lugia player going first to be able to like if unless they had an amazing turn one where they got two Archeops down, like it's really not super likely that they can go Serena or Boss KO the Lugia. But
Yeah. Or whenever they go for a Luminian knockout,
right,
like if they push up their Guru and
yeah,
have like
yeah.
Archeops, Lugia on the bench.
Now if you have rope, you can like do more things. So
Yeah.
that's actually kind of a cool inclusion.
Yeah, the rope was pretty cool.
So yeah, I mean, it feels like so you feel like we're at a point where we don't know exactly where we're at in the cycle, or like
I
is this a tournament where people are adding techs in their Lugia? It's just they have to determine which ones are the right techs.
I mean, I think you could almost tech for everything pretty comfortably. Like when I went up Gustavo had this. I forget if it was Skylar or Irida, but it was one of them. Skylar or Irida, the rope, the cologne. Like I had everything. I think you could fit everything pretty comfortably in Lugia, but you are a little bit less consistent, right? Because you look at like Bradner's list versus Andrew's list from Orlando. Andrew's a little bit more teched out, a little
Yeah.
bit less consistent. Bradner's list a little bit more consistent. Also, you get to run double vacuum, which deals with shenanigans a little bit easier. Like you don't want to pumpkaboo the path to the peak if you could vacuum it instead. That makes things a lot smoother, a lot cleaner, right? So, yeah, you can kind of tech for everything if you want to. The question is just like, do you want to? Yeah, because I think Andrew pretty much had all the techs. Had the Watch for the Manaphy.
Yeah.
Didn't have the Cologne. Had the Echoing Horn instead of the Cologne, basically, but still had the Irida. So you could replace the Echoing Horn
The horn
with a
is
Switch.
cool, but because it can be used in other matchups, like horn can actually be pretty good in the mirror,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
Kincer Stoutland
but
or
it can be
Lugia V.
played around as well, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
they know you have it, you can play around it by like
Yeah.
over
Whenever they go
benching.
for a Luminian attack, they
Right.
gotta leave the
They
bench space
gotta
open. So the horn is
leave a
pretty
spot.
cool. And I think it's probably its best in the mirror match for sure. I guess it's good against Gudra and Arctura as
Yeah.
well, so it's another option against them. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of up in the air um, on whether or not you should heck. Every event, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to playing Lugia, a tournament. But I don't know if I would. I don't think I would play the Switch card. I don't know. I'd maybe play the Birdkeeper. I don't know if I'd play Switch if I played Ear. It's
Because
just
it
so
like
hard.
it becomes a thing as well because like if people who want to play the paralysis type things, if they think Lugias are playing switching cards and it's like, okay, well our deck isn't that good, so we
Then they
gotta
just won't
switch
show
something
up with
else.
it. Yeah.
And then if Lugia players know that those players are thinking like that, then Lugia players can be like, well, I don't need to play these bird keepers and switching
Yeah. How
cards,
far
right?
down the?
Yeah, exactly. If they know that I know that he knows that she knows, like
Yeah, I think the Birdkeeper's deck usually just pretty safe to have in turn. I was actually surprised that people were cutting it because it's not even a bad card in most matchups to just pivot into your next attacker sometimes. Like that's where I see people use it, well, the most usually. So that means you're not playing a paralysis deck, so they don't need to like save it against me. But they'll bench their next attacker, don't want to waste energy to retreat, and then there's like Birdkeeper into it. So I don't know, the Birdkeeper like seems like a pretty good play no matter what, I guess.
yeah, and like if you're attacking with Luminion, right, you can just go quick ball, Luminion, Luminion, Birdkeeper,
Yeah,
boom, you've got it set up.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. It feels like pretty safe to just like have the Birdkeeper, I guess. No matter what, it doesn't feel like bad. Of course, you are trying to play. I feel like you are trying to play. If you're playing Lugia, you're trying to play Bradner's list, right? That's the list you want to play. Is what Bradner played.
So more straightforward, less text.
Like ideally, that's what you want to play. But when there's enough stuff countering Lugia, you do have to try and check some of it, right?
Sure.
So the question is just like, I mean, neither of them played Canceling Clone, right? So neither of them were afraid of Aerodactyl or didn't respect Arctur that much.
And I don't think it's worth
was,
being scared of Aerodactyl.
yeah.
And then like,
But like, if no one's scared of it, then that's what it is. It is a little bit interesting because that is the time to bring it, right?
sure.
But you don't want to play these tech cards that are not that great to begin with, anyways. I think even Andrew said that the Echoing Horn that they played was like not that good, as well.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you don't want to play these when that could just be even like and Andrew played the stupid extra Pokemon search card.
Oh, the capturing aroma.
Yeah, play the capturing, but you'd rather play like more draw supporters and more capturing aromas, right? Instead of the Echoing Horn. If the Echoing Horn is just going to do nothing the whole day because it is a more situational card than a research or a capturing aroma. You'd rather just play more of those, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
the consistency, like just setting up more consistent on the turn to attack is pretty good as well.
So Lugia is the best deck.
Yeah.
If you're playing in OCIC or in internationals or really any tournament, what reason is there to not play Lugia? And we talked about this a few weeks ago, and you actually said that you thought like if you are someone who considers yourself like a mid-tier player, that you shouldn't play Lugia.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to play a lot of mirror matches, right? And if you're a mid-tier player, you're taking 50-50s to like people who are probably better at the mirror than you and better at the deck than you. So like you're going to lose more often than 50-50, right?
It's gonna be harder for you to deal with the funky stuff too. So when you go up against anyone with like some weird paralysis stuff.
So do you still feel like that remains true though, is what I mean? Like,
yeah,
do you feel like
I think if you consider yourself like an average player, even if you're just playing for points, like I don't think there's any reason to play Lugia. I think the only people who should play Lugia, and this is only based on so like my opinion would change on this if Lugia was like a 10% deck or a 15% deck, but because it is, Orlando we saw it at its lowest at 26%. What if we saw it come down to like 20% or under 20% here, which I'm predicting is probably going to be 30%. I think it's going to go back.
Yeah, I feel like it will too.
Then I would be playing it, right? If it was on sub 20%, I would probably be playing Lugia. But I don't want to play a bunch of mirror matches against all the best. And if more of the top players in the world weren't just like, I'm just going to play Lugia again, which like, I don't know, you could probably predict, Tord and like Brian DeVries and like.
And maybe some of the Australian players too.
Yeah, like Natalie Miller's probably going to be playing Lugia. Like they all just like playing the best deck, which is like fine, but that's not like how I like to view the game. So, I don't think any average player should play Lugia. I think only the like top 0.01% of players, when it's this popular, should play Lugia. Because if you're gonna put a ton of time to learn the mirror match and know everything now super fundamentally well, and then bring maybe a little own twist to your list. Like even though, like I said, Brandon's list was like probably the list you kind of want to play because it's the most straightforward. Sometimes being
but his twist was being exactly.
Everyone's getting spicy with the Evas and the Skylas and the Colognes, and then Brandon's like, all right, just keep it straightforward,
consistent.
And that is the twist, right? And we had like the Echoing Horn and Andrew's build and the Wash Energy for the Lost Box matchup, so you can add those little, like everyone does their own little thing, but you have to do that. And you have to be one of the best players in the world, so you can actually maximize the deck's power and not come up short up against the funky stuff when you do hit it. Because it's either you're playing Lugia, or you're coming up with some way to beat Lugia, right? With something different or new, or you're choosing to play Gudra, which is a bad Lugia only.
Brother.
Or you're choosing to play Gudra, which has a bad Lugia matchup, right? Like you're doing one of the two things. You're playing Lugia, you're playing a deck to beat Lugia, or you're playing Gudra. So, and I think the Gudra mindset needs to. I don't think it's going to be very strong in this tournament. So, yeah, if you're not one of the best players in the world, I don't think you should play Lugia. No one's going to follow that advice. Lugia will still be 30% of the meta, and a lot of people are just going to go like 4-4 with their Lugia, or 4-4-1.
Yeah. Yeah, Lugia will be a pretty high percent. It'll be the most popular deck day one, and it'll be the most popular deck day two. But like, this is just gonna be a numbers thing regardless. But like, so just because you're playing Lugia to a tournament does not like make your path to day two any easier necessarily, right?
I think it makes it harder. I think if you bring something like an Arctura, so like I said, like an average player, if you bring like an Arctura, if you put a lot of time into Lost Box, I think you have to invest a lot of time, or like a Mew, I think you have a higher chance of like making day two or reaching your goal, whatever it might be, 128, because we're probably not gonna have 128 people in day two, so just getting to like 128. I think you have a higher chance if you don't play Lugia, if you're like one of those players who are in that kind of that position.
So a point of contention this week, I've seen a lot of people discussing this on Twitter, is the Mew versus Lugia matchup. And it's mostly what I've seen on Twitter has been Lugia players saying like, how does Mew think that they ever win this matchup, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's been a big point. And even like I watched Isaiah stream this past week and he played against a Mew and it was like on turn two, I mean, like some games with Lugia is just going to play out like this, but it was like after turn two, he was like, "Okay, this game is over. I won the game," right? Because like he did what he needed to. Mew didn't stick him with the path judge. He wins the game, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if we look at some of the data, Trainer Hill tweeted out this little graph that shows the matchup percentages for each deck, each of the top decks here. And if we go down here, you can see Mew Genesect up against Lugia. Mew's favored 51%.
So
That's
50-50.
a little favored, but yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much 50-50. I don't know. What have your thoughts kind of been on that matchup? Do you think Mew can stand up to Lugia? Like, is this 50-50 pretty representative of how the matchup actually plays out? And these results are based off of online tournament results from Play Limitless.
Yeah, I've been calling it a 50-50 as of late, and I think there's a decent amount of other players who like back. The players Nathan Ginsburg, second place, San Diego, Leon. Forget the last name, won Liverpool, and then you have players like
Kesselring.
Kesselring. You have people like players like Xander Perot, who was like a winning in away from making top 8 in Orlando.
Yeah.
We saw Mew in top 8 from Grant Hayes at Orlando as well. Like I think it would be about 50-50, and I think there's a decent amount of there's a decent pool of results out there to kind of back that up, and you'd have some other good players out there who would also say the same thing. I think going first is a big deal, of course, but I think it is definitely harder to play the matchup on the Mew side than it is the Lugia side. So we'll always see uh, Lugia probably have more success. Online tournament stats are a little bit iffy as well because the matchups are never being played consistently perfect, and when it's harder to play on the Mew side, I don't know. I think it hurts its.
Yeah, I think these numbers are like good to reference, but they're
Yeah.
definitely not like perfect.
Yeah.
Like statistics.
You want to test it
Like,
yourself.
yeah.
The matchups yourself if you can for sure. So I think it's close. I think it's close to 50-50 though. So I guess this stat for this one for the online tournament results is pretty close to what I would say it probably is about 50% probably.
Anything
Yeah.
else in here worth noting, maybe while we're looking at this graph that you noticed when we looked at it earlier that is like super lopsided? I mean, if we're looking at this, Arcadura's matchups, man, you're losing to Mew, but other than that, 50-50 to Lugia, and you're favored against pretty much everything else, 50-50 to Rayquaza. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a lot of jank in here, though, right?
I mean, it depends if people have the colognes, right? If they have the colognes, I think Arctur is unfavored against Lugia.
Yeah.
If
I mean, is it even though?
'cause
Because
you
you
can't.
have to have everything. You have to have belt and 4 powerful, right? And if you're only playing one belt, which some people are, and if you're, prizing one of your 4 powerfuls or have to discard one or you have two in your hand, right? Like everything has to be perfect because you only get one turn to use that cologne.
But that
It
only feels
doesn't do
like
you any good to do 310 damage to a Duraludon. It's got to be 330.
But that's like only in the situations where you go second, right? When you're just going first at Lugia, and if you just turn 2 KO their Arceus, like you're gonna draw probably 4 prize cards to maybe find those things, or you just kind of win. And that's only if the Dura player has the Gust KO on the Archeops when they go first, right? Because if they don't, then you just set up Yveltal and you just need the vacuum, right? So you have more out. So I think when you have the canceling cologne, if you didn't prize anything, but I think in a best 2 out of 3, that's where like that's where best 2 out of 3 comes up heavily, where it's like you might lose a game at every setup against Arctura, but if you win the 2 of the 3, like that's why I think like having the extra tech card makes a pretty big difference in a best 2 out of 3. So in a best of 1, it probably doesn't matter as much, but a best 2 out of 3, I think it's quite a definitely a bigger deal. So, but yeah, I feel like people are kind of pulling back on Cologne, which does set up for Aerodactyl to be that much better going into this weekend. And I think that will kind of maintain true. I think Aerodactyl will probably be better this weekend than Liverpool. It seemed like everyone had canceling Cologne.
So now is it Aerodactyl Vikavolt or is it Aerodactyl Mew?
I don't know. Grant Hayes, I think they said that they didn't think Aerodactyl did it was like okay in their deck. We've seen consistently.
Alexander played
Mew,
he played Mew with the advanced technology, but he didn't play Aerodactyl, he played the Manaphy.
Yeah, just the Manaphy.
Choosing not to play the Aerodactyl last weekend in Orlando.
Yeah, not play, which is weird because it is so popular. But yeah, chose to not play the Aerodactyl. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Vikavolt deck is still pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
It's not really, you gain Sky Seal Stone if you want to go that route over like the Forest Seal Stone, but you can play both. So I think it's still probably pretty good. Probably the best way to play Aerodactyl still. And I think people are sleeping on the deck in general, to be honest. I feel like everyone hates the deck. I think it's bad. It was definitely not a great play at Orlando because there was so much Gudra, but I'm not predicting people to play a deck again as popular as it was that doesn't have a good game matchup. So
yeah, Vikavolt has a pretty terrible Gudra and Arctura matchup.
Yeah.
And those collectively made up like 13%. It was like Arctura was 5%, Gudra was 8%, something like that. So 13% of the meta is just like in a 70-30 match or 30-70 matchup. Like that's going to be, I mean, that's manageable, I guess. But if you hit 3 of them, like your day one's done, right?
Yeah, it's not great for sure. And there's also more people on the Dragonite as well in Lost Box, which is like harder for Vikavolt as well.
Speaking of which, Lost Box is kind of in a questionable spot right now, right? In Orlando, there wasn't like a definitive emerging way to play it. I don't feel like Nick Moffat got top 4 with the Lost Box Rayquaza. Really similar to Pablo's build from the San Diego regionals. He does have the Ice Q in here. Ice Q.
Ice Cube. That's what I said. That's what I said. Ice Cube earlier.
Look at you. He's evolving.
That's why you didn't say anything because I said it correctly. You just didn't even notice.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I didn't mention this last time, but another reason for double Manaphy is actually the canceling clone. So they can't go like Raikou plus Manaphy canceling clone.
yeah.
KO2 things. So another reason to play double Manaphy that Moffat did play.
So, yeah, I mean, is Lost Box Ray still the best way to go with the deck?
It was the top 3 placing Lost Box decks. I mean, I think so, probably. I don't know, I think there might still be some stuff to figure out there with like Zamazenta. And I mean, Kyogre's still so strong, right? It's hard for me to say that.
This was Victor Ohm's turn 1
Yeah.
Secret to the Lost Zone deck, correct?
Yeah. The vacuums, the Pokestop. Yeah, this is my only loss in day 1 was to Victor at
Mhm.
Orlando. Stuff for control. They played a lot of vacuums, goons, shred. There's echoing horn. The echoing horn is what got me. They had a really long game 1, and then I was like, I don't know if they have echoing horn in here as well. I was like, Alberto didn't play it. They definitely have some stuff that Alberto didn't play, but could they fit the horn in here? I don't know. We'll just play as if they don't have horn, and then they had horn, so unlucky. But yeah, the turn 1 build, I don't know, it kind of fizzles out pretty fast. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like it takes advantage of people not knowing how your deck wants to work, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're Lugia, I think you just choose to go second against it, right? Like,
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I mean, you could go first, but yeah, that's even a big thing. Is like if you know what build it is, you go first and you put down an extra basic Pokemon. And now their escape rope doesn't KO your
yeah,
lone Lugia.
that's true too.
So even just go. I think you maybe still just go first because you force them to overextend their resources harder if they have to also go second, and then because if they don't get off a big play going second, then their deck doesn't have as many options moving forward. So I feel like you still just make them go second, like, and you make them have to potentially have an awkward Colress or a more awkward Comfey because they're digging for the turn 1 play, and then you just bench another Pokemon down so you don't that your lone Lugia get KO, which is what I think Victor did to Diego or something on stream, is that they just like caught the
Yeah.
lone Lugia in one of the games.
So you were super, you and your testing group, obviously, for pretty much most of this format since LAIC have been playing Lost Box Kyogre, changed it
Yeah.
up for Orlando. How do you feel about Kyogre for this tournament this weekend?
It's hard. I've just kind of been out of like I just have not played that much Pokemon. Like Ray is kind of cool, but if people are adopting like my favorite thing about Ray is the Raikous, not even the Rays.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
favorite thing about the Ray build is the Raikou, which I was actually surprised that Moffat went down to 1 Raikou because I feel like Raikou is such a better attacker against the Lugia deck. Because you can put 360 damage in play if you punch a Lugia. And if you're not punching a Lugia, you're probably getting 2 prize cards as long as you can KO the Manaphy. But if people are adding the wash energy to the Lugias, that makes any kind of Lost Box pretty rough. You have to play like a more straightforward build that kind of tries to go through their active more all the time. But then you have to be winning the prize trade because if you're ever losing the prize trade, you have no comeback. You have no way to make a comeback as a Lost Box deck. Like if you're just behind a prize card, then the Lugia player just wins the prize trade. If they only set down like 1 prize for the rest of the game, get the Luminion out of play. You know, they give you the 1 Lugia, but if they get 2 prizes with that Lugia, you get your 2 prize cards, and you're just even in the prize trade. They put the Manaphy down with the wash. Raikou can't make big plays happen. You could
And we can save Stalin for the end as well.
yeah, save Stalin for the end. And against the Kyogre deck, well, same thing. Like they can't Sableye KO that Manaphy. If they're Marnie spamming you, it's gonna be hard to pull off a boss play anyways if you play it. So the wash energy, it's just really good Lugia to beat Lost Box decks, to be honest. So if people are gonna adopt that moving forward, it's tough. I think it's kind of just tough for Lost Box in general. And I don't know which build I would favor, to be honest. But I think with Ray's track record, if I had to predict one, like if you're picking between the two, I think Ray would have to be the one to go. If I was playing one, I'd probably play Kyogre again, but just because I've just been playing Kyogre this whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you were picking between the two, I mean, Raikou, you can't argue with Rayquaza's track record right now.
I mean, I wonder too if there's still room for some other different variant, right? You mentioned Zamazenta, like
Yeah.
how that could fit in. Sky Sealstone's another card that I think everyone recognizes as pretty strong, but it's
Yeah.
just how does it fit into a Lost Box deck, or is it worth trying to change the way that the deck is built? Because you'd have to play like 2 to 3 Pokemon V probably to make good value of it. Which ones are you playing? You're still getting the Dragonite in there. It's the hardest hitter probably, but then there's other options like Raikou, Galarian Zapdos, Drapion, right? So I don't know where do all those different things go. So I'd like to see someone maybe come up with something more interesting. And maybe there is something out there, but
I think we'll see. I think someone will have come with some of Sky Sailstone for sure. Some kind of uh, like the deck gets beaten when people know about it, like it's like tech for it or something. But like it's gonna be one of those decks that just like it just prize trades favorably in every match. Like they puzzled out Sky Sealstone to just win the prize trade against against Lost Box and Lugia. I feel like that maybe exists out there for sure.
So moving on from that, we do have the two kind of tank and heal decks that we'll talk about. Though I guess like, yeah, I mean they're different but like similar strategies overall, and that's the Gudra and then the Arceus Duraludon. They're both really popular in Orlando, and I think everyone knew Gudra was going to be pretty popular, but I'm just kind of surprised that Gudra and Arctura made up 13% when combined together, right?
That's a
Like
lot.
that's a pretty high percentage for like that style of deck to make up. But Gudra's results were honestly kind of questionable. Michael Bergerac he lost 2 winning ins, so like I
Three.
think 3 winning ins.
I think it was 3. I think I remember hearing it
Oh
was 3 at the
jeez.
event.
No, because he lost 2 because he was at 33 points. Maybe it was. I think it was 2,
It was a
but
lot.
yeah, I mean, which is tough. I mean, sometimes the deck just doesn't pan. I mean,
Yeah.
many people have been in that result before, and that position before. It doesn't say anything about Michael. Just whatever happened with those
Yeah.
matchups or how his deck drew, whatever it is. But if he wins one of those, the conversation. I mean, I think if there's a Gudra in top 8 um, of Orlando, the discussion's like a little bit different. But after seeing only one in top 16, there's a couple more in the top 32, but overall didn't do the best. And Arctura really didn't do great at all. I think there was just like one in top 32. Yeah, one
Yeah,
in
it's
top
not too great.
32. So yeah, I mean, I guess, do you expect a lot less meta share for OCIC than what we saw in Orlando?
So what was Arctur at? Was that like 4?
It was 4 or 5, I think.
4 or 5, yeah. I mean, I think Arctur will stay about that same. I don't think really expect it to increase. Like people are still gonna have colognes, which makes it like not a great Lugia play, like I mentioned. I think Guja will go down for sure. It was kind of like the hype fringe deck going into the tournament.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like a hype new tier 1, tier 2 deck to really people to latch onto. So it was kind of the hype fringe deck going into the tournament.
Yeah.
But it does, and I thought it had. I think I even mentioned on the podcast before the tournament that I thought Guja was a better play than Arctura.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think either of them were good plays going into Orlando. Like looking back, now that we've like looking back on the tournament in hindsight, I think both were pretty bad plays. And I don't think Guja's that good moving forward. You can't just have an unfavorable Lugia matchup. Like why would you ever play? It just makes no sense to ever play that deck unless you like. And I thought the matchup was better. When we recorded the last podcast, I thought the matchup was better than it actually was. But then my testing between the podcast and actually going up to the event, I was like, this just isn't. The deck's just like not that good. Like I don't see any reason to play Guja unless you like have gotten the Lugia matchup. I guess 50-50 would be fine because you're good against Lost Box decks. If you get it to 50-50 against Lugia, then I guess I say go for it. Like I guess it's fine, but I don't think it is. I think it's just unfavorable.
Well,
the deck is also kind of clunky as well.
Do you play the double Drapion to beat Mew as well is another question, because I don't think your Mew matchup is great.
That's not good either.
But if you play double Drapion, your Mew
It's
matchup's
good.
incredible, right?
I think you should, right? Because that's what we saw from the 2 highest placing lists of Guja. Oh no, besides Bergerac.
Besides
Bergerac had
Bergerac.
the 1. It's not terrible with 1. I don't know. That's tough for me. I would have to test that more, to be honest. I think trust your testing. If you test and 1 Drapion's working, or if you're testing and you feel like you need the second Drapion, just go with what your testing says, to be honest. Right now, after he's playing Guja, go with what your testing says. I don't have too strong of an opinion on that, to be honest. Because when I played the deck with 1 Drapion, the Mew matchup has felt fine. Like it feels like probably 50-50 in my testing. But if you feel like you're losing to it a majority of the time, I mean, I think Mew's still going to be like a 12%.
What does a Trainer
bet,
Hill
right?
data say?
Yeah, what does Hill say?
Gudra Lost Zone up against Mew Genesect is 51% for Gudra.
Okay.
And I wonder if that is carried on the back of people maybe post
Yeah.
Orlando, including
Double
Drapion. Yeah.
It might be. Yeah. I'd say just trust your testing. Whatever your testing says, just go with it. I don't have too strong an opinion on that one, to be honest. But I would say you do want to at least 50-50 Mew.
I know you're not going to play either one of these decks.
No.
But if you had to, if it's like gun to the head, you got to pick one of these. Azul.
Well, I was kind of talking bad about Arctura. Well, I was talking bad about Gudra.
You're talking bad about Gudra for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I would go Arctura, though.
I don't think Arctura is in the worst position.
I don't think there's going to be that much cancel clone.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there will be. So I think Arctura's Lugia matchup is like probably 55-45, maybe 60-40. I think it's like slightly favored Arctura if they don't have clone. If they don't have a clone. And then the problem becomes just like some of the other matchups. Rayquaza can be questionable. It's probably slightly unfavored. Mew, unfavored matchup, I would say, most of the time.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. But like you beat a lot of the fringe stuff. You'll beat the Vikavolt decks. You'll beat
pretty good against most Lost Box.
I guess your Reggie matchup's not great either.
Reggie's actually not that bad. I didn't even like think about this, and usually when I play up against Reggie, I'm pretty good about it. Don't evolve are Dura VMAX. Just don't evolve to Dura VMAX.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was talking to the Arctur enthusiast himself, Grant Shen, about it. He's like, yeah, you just don't evolve. And I was like, oh yeah, you just don't evolve. Because
Slug.
Yeah, whenever I played him against it, whenever I was playing my Reggie for the 2 tournaments, Salt Lake City or PR in Salt Lake City, every Arctur I played against evolved. And usually when I'm playing up against Reggie, I'm pretty good about noting that. Just like,
Man.
when I'm playing a VMAX, like, all right, don't evolve to the VMAX.
Duraludon V is hard to KO.
It is, yeah.
Because
That matchup
you
actually, I
get
think, was
Hyper
close.
Potion in there too. Like,
Yeah, exactly. 4 metal on the first, 2 metal on the second. So
Yeah.
the second one usually becomes a VMAX, but the first one just put 4 metal on it, KOs anything for a couple turns. Some hyper potions with some. Yeah, the
well, it
matchup is not that
KOs,
bad.
doesn't it do 10 plus 40, or is it 40 times?
Yes, you need 4 metal. It's 10 plus 40, so 3 metals, it KOs.
Yeah,
all
3
non-
metals
No,
KOs
but you
everything
gotta get
except
some
for
Gigas.
Gigas.
Yeah, but they'll hit you with Gigas. They'll force the 4th metal out of you, so.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, the matchup is actually not that bad. I thought it was terrible, but that's because every time I played against someone, they always evolve to the VMAX.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Reggies, how do you feel about that for this weekend? There's only one in top 32 in Orlando. I mean,
Gudra was popular, though.
yeah, that's, I think, what the problem for it was. Gudra is just pretty much an unwinnable matchup, but like its matchups across the board otherwise, not that bad. It has a fine Lugia matchup, has a fine Mew matchup. It has a fine Lost Box matchup, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think my main problem with Reggie's is it doesn't feel, it feels like a very linear deck where there's like not room to make plays most of the time,
Yeah.
right? It's like you play the hand you're dealt, like there's skill involved in as far as like the sequencing and like resource conservation, right? But as far as just like, room to
You
like
make your opponent think. You don't make your opponent think too much. Definitely.
you're
I agree.
doing like two different things a turn.
But it's
right?
it's powerful when it sets up, when it gets going. So I guess the power of those kind of decks is it's powerful. You don't make your opponent think too much. I think it's like about as good as it has. It's better, way better for this event than it was for Orlando. Gudra will probably go down for sure because like once again, it just doesn't, unless someone figured it out and they're beating Lugia all of a sudden, then Gudra shouldn't be as popular as it was for Orlando. I think that was like kind of almost felt like it was like it was the fringe hype deck going into the tournament. I feel like, and that's a reason it was so popular. It's like a lot of people, are like, ooh, this Gudra deck is cool. It's fun. I'm beating Lugia enough to where I'll play it, but I think after Orlando, people are like, I'm not really beating it enough to where I want to play it again, or like, or other people have, because there's a ton of people, of course, at this event that are not from, three people who went to Orlando. Almost none of them are coming actually to this event, but they look at those results. They've still been testing this whole time. I'm sure a lot of people are not as hype on Gudra going into this weekend, so I think Reggie's in like a pretty solid spot. Maybe a little risky, and there was like a decent amount of like Ice Q, I guess, and stuff with control. And even like Moffat had it in their build top 4 list. So, maybe you want to include the Yell Horn.
Yeah, I wonder if you could even just include like a couple escape rope. If you just played 2 escape rope and Reggie, is that enough? Because like that's a card that you get utility from in other matchups theoretically.
Well, they'll
or
eventually
other
get down to lone
situations.
Ice Q, and then you can't rope anymore.
Well, if you have rope plus, I guess it'd have to be rope plus boss, which
Yeah.
not everyone plays boss right now anyway. But
Yell Horn is just definitely the best, the most.
well, you
efficient
could
way
no,
to
because you
deal
could
with them.
go rope plus bad lucky, right?
Yeah, but that's like so many. That's like 2 bad cards you have to play in the deck. The deck is already like doesn't. You just want to be straightforward and consistent. Like playing the 3rd Gigas for the Mew matchup already hurts a ton. You don't want to do that. It feels awful. So you're trying to be as consistent as possible. Because one of the struggles of Reggie is consistency. That's like the number one thing you lose to is your own consistency. So yeah, I just like the Yell Horn because it's a 1 card inclusion to beat the Ice Cube. Once you get to the 2-3 cards, it's like I would just play 4 Marnie. Like that's what I would do with Reggie for sure. 4 Marnie, up your Lost Box percentage because people have a bunch of stuff in Lost Box and making things harder. The Raikou plus
Reggie
Goon,
Judd.
Reggie Judd. Go one more.
Yeah.
4 Marnie, and actually that's actually funny because when I played Reggie at Salt Lake City, I played up against Cyrus playing the Arceus Giratina B-Brawl deck, and they played 4 Marnie and a Judge, and we played a Pokegear. But I think that should have just been a Judge looking back on it.
so.
We played a 1 of Pokegear. It could have been something else as well, but I think it probably should have just been a Judge looking back. I was like, that's the Judge is super smart. I wish I played a Judge. But yeah, I think if you're playing Reggie, I think play 4 Marnie for sure. Just up your Lost Box percentage, I think.
Something I would be interested to see in Orlando in I think it was round 4. We saw Grant Shin on the stream, and he played the Turbo Reggies, and I thought that build looked really cool. Obviously, there was a little bit of drama and stuff happening there where Grant had submitted the wrong Reggies on his list and had to swap those out. So his tournament run kind of got stunted. He did make day 2 still, but you don't really know how far he could have gone with the deck if he had the correct Reggie Lucky that he wanted to play.
I actually talked to him about it, and he actually beat all of his Lugias after having bad Luckies.
Okay.
So I guess just attacking.
Well, he made it into day 2 at 6-2-1, but like his day 2 record, when I looked at him in like round 13 or 14 just to see what his record was, and it was like 6-5.
There was still a lot of Gudra to go through, so I think that was probably the main killer for Grant. But yeah, apparently he beat all the Lugias that he went up against after that. But you probably want to play, if you're taking Grant's list, you probably still want to play some good Luckies for sure. I want to go all in on the bad Luckies.
Maybe a split
a
somehow.
1-1 split maybe or something.
1-1, that's interesting, but Yeah, I think that there's something to be explored there potentially. So, I mean, maybe someone will have seen that on the stream, picked it up here, and maybe we'll see something from that in OCIC. But
Yeah.
I want to ask you now about Control. Obviously, you guys played that to Orlando. Few of you, Danny, Grant, and Isaiah made day 2 with the same 16.
Grant did not make it, unfortunately. Or did he?
Grant made it.
Oh, he did make it. He did make it. Yeah, that's right. It
Caleb
felt
and
like he
Kid
wasn't there.
missed out,
Yeah,
right?
Caleb and
Yeah.
Kid missed. That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't think
And
Grant
a
made it
couple
for
other
some
people on
reason.
the list too, but
He was even bummed about coming in at 6-2. I mean, it would be hard to make top 8 at 6-1. So
yeah.
he already felt like he was out of it.
But and then Isaiah bubbled out.
Yeah.
Was at the 35 match points, did not get
Yeah.
in there. Obviously you guys based your list on Sanders' list from what was it, Liverpool, right? Or
Yeah, Liverpool.
yeah, Liverpool. I don't know. How do you feel like that control style deck does into the current field? Like, I mean,
I mean,
is there reason for people to like, because we always talk about the cooldown period with control, right?
yeah.
Like, it's really good whenever no one's expecting it, but then when people expect it, they respect it a little more in their deck building, or they're a little more sharp on, play against it, maybe whatever it might be. Do you think has there not been enough of a cooldown period for control to be good again, or do you think it's not worth it for people to tech for control, which then in turn makes control a decent enough play?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think. I think it's still a good play for sure because your Lugia matchup is always unless a Lugia player really wants to go that far out of their way to tech for the matchup. Um, which like I mean, how many people are theoretically gonna play control at this tournament? Sander, and then like if our group played it, that'd be what? Uh, 4 people,
Yeah.
5 people, like because not even all of our group.
There'll be more than that.
Yeah, of course,
but-
of course. Like, but like, I mean, that's what I was gonna go over. Like, what, 10 people total, maybe playing control, right? It's
yeah.
hard to want to tech for that matchup. Like I said, the bird keeper is always something you can kind of tech in as for paralysis, and it's good against control as well. It doesn't make it favorable for you or anything, but it's something. So checking for it, like if I was playing Lugia, I would probably only go as far as bird keeper. I think it's definitely a really good deck solo. Like your Lugia matchup is favorable. Lost box is fine. I don't think I don't think OCIC will be any more hostile for control than it was at um, Orlando. Because like I don't just like generally it feels like people don't unless the deck like wins. No, people don't really want to tech. It's
Yeah.
that which is kind of weird to think about, right? Because like even if you think to yourself like, okay, I respect this deck, I think the deck is good. And obviously some people might play it, but no, I'm not gonna tech for it. But if it wins, then all of a sudden everyone's like, all right, you got to tech for the control.
Yeah,
Like if Sander had
right.
won Liverpool,
Yeah.
everyone would have a control tech in their decks going into Orlando, right? And already a decent amount of Lost Box had like Echoing Horns. Like every Lost Box I played against had Echoing Horn. But I only lost Victor. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be any worse than that. Like it already felt like at Orlando. But yeah, it does feel like like if the deck doesn't win or maybe make finals, people kind of write it off. And even like if you even look at like the Kreckler deck, right? The Vikavolt Aerodactyl. It got second, grew terribly against Connor in the finals.
Yeah.
And no one respected the deck. And then
Gibby
Gibby shows
won,
up, and
yeah.
Gibby wins. And even then, nobody respected the deck. Well, no, that's not true. At Liverpool,
People started
everyone had
having
to
the
go. Yeah,
collab,
then
yeah.
people had to, but it
People
had to win.
respected
It
it,
had to
yeah.
win,
It
right?
had to win,
So
yeah.
it feels like if decks don't win, people don't really respect them. So I think if you're on control, I wouldn't be afraid. Like if you want to play like a control deck, I wouldn't be afraid.
Sure.
So yeah, if you want to play control, I wouldn't be afraid. And then teching for it, I don't know, it's a tough call to make. Like right now, I don't think I would tech for it, but I feel like if I was playing Lost, if I'm gonna play a Lost Box, I already probably have some card in there that would like naturally give me a game plan against control for the most part. Like usually most Lost Box decks, you can have at least a game plan even if you don't auto win it.
Well, but I think it's also too, like, I mean, a card like Echoing Horn.
It's just a good card. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just a
just
good card.
like it's going to be really good against control, but it's going to be useful in a lot of other matchups as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Good against Guja, good against Arctura. So like it has a ton of uses already. So yeah.
So maybe it is worth including then, but not specifically for control. But like if you can find a card that like you can get enough uses out of, um, like you're not checking specifically for one thing, but if you can find like it's like if control is just like a 1% or less than 1% meta share deck, like you don't want to tech for a 1% meta
Yeah.
share deck. Pretty
That's why like in like Lugia, you really don't want to play Canceling Clone.
Right.
Like you do not want to play Canceling Clone. But it's like, okay, if no one plays Canceling Clone, there's always gonna be like 2 Aerodactyl in top 8. If my goal is to win the tournament, I probably want to have a tech for Aerodactyl if I think that's the route that the meta will kind of trend towards, right?
Sure.
So
So we talked about the paralysis stuff a little bit when we talked about Lugia. I mean, just I guess of the kind of 3 main things like Inteleon Articuno style decks, Zekrom Lost Box or Zekrom Flaffy, like whatever it is with Zekrom. or Palkia and Teleon with Articuno, right?
Yeah.
Of those three, those are kind of the three ways people are going to play paralysis type stuff. Do you think any of the three are worth playing, or maybe is one better than the other ones? Like I think personally, I would probably lean Palkintel, right? Because you
Yeah.
just have legs in other matchups, right? Where you're
Yeah.
not just totally reliant on the paralysis strategy, whereas these other decks feel like they're way more reliant on it, right?
Yeah, I really like the Articuno and Teleon deck, but it is like super straight. Like you can't even beat Lost Box. Like the deck struggles really hard to beat Lost Box, even with like the Ice Cube package.
Yeah.
With what everyone's playing in Lost Box these days, it's super hard to beat that. So, Palkia, like I think I agree. I think Palkia, Intel, Articuno. I actually predicted Ian Robb to win Orlando once I saw what he was playing. And I heard that he had the Crabominable to beat the Gudras and the Arcturas, and he had the Drapion to beat Mew. I was like, okay, I think Ian's gonna win this.
Yeah.
Going like around 7 or 8, I predicted Ian to win the whole tournament. And came into day 2 at 8-1, but wasn't able to quite make it into cut bubbled out as well, or bubbled out. So but I think that is the best way to play it. You do have more things in the matchup, but I think like going back to like the Zekrom and some Lost Box builds and stuff is probably reasonable. I think the time to play a paralysis deck was Orlando, because I think more people are gonna have Birdkeeper and stuff in their Lugias going into OCIC. So I think the time to play paralysis stuff definitely was Orlando.
And I think I want to pull this up in regards to Palkia. Ian actually tweeted and said, yeah, he said, good luck to everyone who will be at OCIC this weekend. I would be playing Palkia Articuno, even though it is not the deck I believe is the best to get points with. The highest odds of winning the tournament is why I would play it. Also, it's really fun. I'll throw that in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always interesting to me when someone says something like that, right? Where it's not the best deck to get points, but it could win the tournament, right? Like, what qualifies a deck to fit that kind of specific niche category, right?
I mean, yeah, like this where it's like that's why I'm not a huge fan of like if I played Lugia, I'm pretty confident I would get points. I'm pretty sure I'd make day 2. How I do in day 2 is once I go up against a bunch of other tier 1 players playing Lugia, like you theoretically, like even if I have like some tech for the mirror, it theoretically comes down to like a 50-50, right? So that'd be like if I really just want to get points, I'd probably play Lugia. But if my goal is to win the tournament, so I want to bring something that has hopefully a slightly favorable Lugia matchup, and then can beat some other stuff or cheese its way through it, which is like seems to be Ian's mentality as well. Like you could bring Lugia yourself, but what's your chance to win the tournament playing that or playing something like Palkia? So and I guess I could so like generally for me, I would like, but I even said though, if I was an average player, I would not recommend playing Lugia to even get points. But I consider myself a decently above average player, so I think for me it's a little bit different. But I don't think Palkia and Teleon paralysis stuff in general was super good for Orlando. I think definitely less good than for OCIC. But I think we'll just see more bird keepers or even switches in the Lugia decks, right? I think we'll just see more of that.
Well, speaking of paralysis, paralyzing bolts with the Vikavolt, not quite paralysis, but yeah. How do you think Vikavolt could do? It kind of flopped in Orlando after winning in San Diego.
A lot of Gudra.
A lot of Gudra, yeah. That's kind of just is the point of like
Yeah.
why a lot of these decks seems like they didn't do the best, is there was a lot of Gudra.
Yeah, I think we'll see it do better. I think there's just gonna be less Gudra. There'll be less canceling clone if you're going the Aerodactyl route. But even like you even mentioned, I think last week, like
A lot of
some
people
bike
on the
multics have been
paths,
going the pathway where you just kind of and you have Sky Seal Stone to be like your closer, right? So you just go aggressive with Vikavolt. Like if you're in the Lugia matchup, you could try and go for turn 1, turn 2, Paralyzing Bolt plus Path in play. Not only do they need to get the Archeops in the discard pile, they got to get the Lugia V-Star. Now they have to bump your path to the peak without being able to play Vacuum or Quick Ball for Pumpkaboo, right? And you try and just snowball that into a lead, and you've always had a good Lost Box matchup with the Vikavolt. So, yeah, I think it'll probably place pretty decent overall this turn. I get to easily see one in top 8 because I don't think there's going to be if you're going the Aerodactyl route, not going to be so much canceling clone. The big thing is just not going to be as much Gudra.
And I think the last thing to talk about would just be other Arceus decks. So something like the Makani Tran deck from San Diego, or maybe something that's more committed to Flying Pikachu. That's been popping up a little bit more in online tournaments, more people playing Flying Pikachu, Espeon type things. And Arceus might be the best way for like a Radiant Eternatus to potentially make something happen. Probably not though,
Probably
but
not.
I don't know. Yeah, any opening for an Arceus deck in OCIC?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Which is not very good. Even like the Makani Tran deck, like Makani ended, I think Makani made day 2 at Orlando again. Ended up top 64, I believe. I think it was like maybe it was the highest placing.
Yeah, top 64.
That might have been the highest placing Arceus pile deck. But I don't know.
I think there was another one. I think there was one
there?
in top 32. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Quick fact check. No,
It's not like it's a very popular deck
Yeah,
either,
yeah.
though, right? It's not a very popular deck either. So Makani's still the highest placing Arceus pile deck.
Another in top 64. It looks like.
Yeah, so not so many people are playing it. Yeah, I just don't think, but I don't know. I don't think there's any other real way to play Arceus. Like that seems like the best way to play it. Canceling Clone will be down in the count, I think for sure. So the Aerodactyl will be a little bit more, a little bit better. I think would be my prediction. It'd be a little bit better overall, but yeah, it's not. I don't know. It's just Arceus is not like if you're. And like I said, like I always say, I don't really count Arceus Duraludon as an Arceus deck. It's just the best way to play Duraludon. You're just trying to. Duraludon's super strong card. You're just trying to enable that as much as possible. Which Arceus is the best at that? Yeah, I don't think there's really a good Arceus deck at all right now.
Unfortunate. How we've fallen from grace.
Maybe someone has it. Maybe someone has something different though this weekend. It would be cool to see for
All
sure.
right. Well, time to give us some predictions here. For Orlando, we set the over-under for Lugia at 2.5. We both picked the under, and we're both wrong. I think it's fair to up the over-under this week, though. We're doing Lugia at 3.5 this week. Over-under 3.5 Lugia and top 8 as well. What do you think?
Well, let's see. How many me and my group are here? We got 4 of us, or 5 of us.
You always say
We
this.
picked up a stray for this one, so we got 5 of us. If all of us make cut, if all of us make cut, that means there's only room for 3 other decks in top 8. So I'm gonna go under on Lugia on the 3.5.
You say this, and then like
squad's about to be all up in the top 8.
When's the last time someone in the squad made top 8?
I don't know. We got a couple of 9s. Got
A few
we got
9s.
some bubbles. You know, we're still there. Isaiah got the bubble at Orlando, so
Yeah.
and I was in a pretty good spot at Orlando too. To be honest, that was kind of unfortunate. My run was pretty unfortunate on the day 2 Orlando.
I'm also gonna go with the under.
Ooh,
I do
okay.
think.
But Sanders here. So like how?
Oh yeah. That's one spot that's guaranteed top 8, right? Yeah. No, yeah. I'm gonna go with the under. Like, I mean, I think it's very. It could very easily be 5 Lugia in top 8 again. But I'm gonna go with the under just because like I think that there's gonna be people trying other things. There will be a lot of Lugia still, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the under. And our next prediction, we kind of teased it already.
Yeah.
Does Sander make top 8?
You gotta go with yes.
Sander is on an insane streak of top 8s.
It's like 4 in a row now.
Yeah,
He loses in top 8 though. Sanders gotta work on that, but
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, just absolutely one of the most consistent players this season, the past 12 months, without a doubt. And whenever someone is that consistent and also plays the style of decks that he plays, right? Doesn't play meta decks, plays control, off meta, all that type of stuff, is always really impressive. So does Sander make top 8? Azul, yes or no?
Yeah, I'm gonna go yes for sure. I think it's almost like you say that. I think it's like you say like that is like I don't know if that is more impressive than if Sander kind of switched between different crazy decks every time. Because if you're only working on control, you already have like you're so in tune with it. Like making the adjustments, it's so much easier and so much more.
I think it's
fluid.
impressive because he's the one doing it, right? It's like sure, like other people could theoretically.
Well, no, yeah,
he's the one putting in the time. And making it happen,
of course
right?
it is. But I feel like when you're focused on just like Sanders, like before the tournament begin, like 2 tournaments from now, Sanders already committed to playing control, right? So it's like you don't have to play through the lost boxes. Do I want to play lost box? Do I want to play Lugia? Do I want to play Mirrors? Like, all right, how do I get this control deck as good as possible? Because we even seen Sander play control when it's been awful, right? Like. And we see Sander whiff day 2s from time to time. But that's when control's like just not very good. But Sander still goes through it anyways, right? And tries to get to as close as possible. So I feel like that's like committing to just playing control. I feel like that's like almost just like an advantage for Sander going into every tournament because Sander like already knows I'm playing control. I just have to work on this one thing. I don't even think about playing any other deck. The only attacking deck I think I've ever seen Sander play was for like the Players Cup, the attacking X control deck.
Yeah, yeah.
I think so. But yeah, Sander in top 8 for sure. Do you got Sander in top 8?
I think it's fair to say, but I don't want to go with the same same answers you every single time. So I'm going to say no.
Oh, you can't do that to Sander. What?
I mean, I think like deep down I'm saying yes, but just for the sake of conversation, I'm going with this.
All right.
And I think deep down I definitely want him to be. But yeah, it's good for the content. Everyone loves watching him on stream and stuff. Though, we're not going to put the control deck on stream too many rounds, but we'll put it on
That's a reason to not play control this tournament. Is like you increase your chance of getting on stream because they already put Sander on stream. Control deck. So if I want to get that T-shirt to this round, then I will not play control. Next one for a prediction. What would be a deck that you think can win the tournament that's not Lugia? Pick a non-Lugia deck that you think would win.
I picked Mew in Orlando for this.
I think I did too, right?
No, you picked Lost Box.
Oh, Lost Box, yeah.
Yeah, I picked Mew, and it close. I mean, I guess Lost Box came a little closer, but got top 8 with the Grant
Yeah.
Hayes. He did take Isaiah to 3 games, but couldn't close it out. I don't think I'm gonna go with Mew for this one. I think it's a Vikavolt, honestly. I think the meta is shaping
That's what I
up
was
decently
thinking.
for it. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, snap. I think the meta is shaping up pretty decently for it. It's
No
obviously a
one
really
respects
strong
it.
deck,
It's
and
off the
nobody
rank.
respects it. Yes, nobody respects it, and it's incredibly strong. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it to Vikavolt because also like it's the type of deck that if it just gets into top 8 and just like hits, 2 good matchups in a row and cut, like it's gonna get a final spot pretty
Yeah,
reasonably.
once you get to top, like I feel like it's hard for its bad matchups to get to top 8. The Gujas and the Arcturs. So if
Yeah,
you get to top
right,
8, I think
right.
you might just be winning
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
your matchups are gonna be really good.
Yeah, you can still lose to Lugia, of course, but all right. So if you went with Vikavolt, I'm not gonna go with Vikavolt. Then let's go with there's not that many decks in this format.
So you're on Mew.
I'm going Arctura. If Arctura,
There-
no Cologne, no one's playing Cologne.
You of all
It's gonna
people.
squeak into top 8 and just eat up some Lugias.
Arctura's biggest hater.
Yeah, we're going Arctura. I'm going Arctura.
All right, well, it's become a pretty good meme at this point. Crown Zenith, worst set in forever.
What did it change?
What did it change? We're still finding the answer to that. Highest placing Crown Zenith card, bonus points. What is that placement going to be?
Well, yours has to be. Well, if you want to pick Vikavolt to win, yours has to be Sky Sealstone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, though. Like, Sky Seal Stone. Yeah, I don't know. Sky Seal, I mean, I think just naturally, the more I've played with the set, the more I've thought about the set, it feels like Sky Seal Stone is just the best card in the set. I don't know.
I mean, Samson is pretty good, but it's only good in. Well, I mean, Sky Sealstone is pretty much only played in Lost Box. Samson is only played in Lost Box. The one card that's not played in Lost Box, the Radiant Eternatus, though. No, we can't. It's hard for me to not say Sky
Calyrex,
Sealstone.
though?
All right, so yeah, I mean, I'll go with. I don't know. It's just they're all bad. I'll Sky Sealstone. I think it just is the best card in the set for sure.
Yeah.
And even if it's not great right now, that's the thing though. Once rotation hits, we're getting EXs, so it's not good against EXs either. But there will be V stars and V maxes will be around enough where we could see. Actually, in EX decks, no, you can't play it on EX decks. Never mind. You play an EX deck with some basic Vs.
There you go. There you go. Like the Gardevoir deck with the Zacian
Yeah.
from Celebrations, right?
Stuff like that.
Yep. And last one, what region gets the win of the 4 major rating zones? Of course, North America, Latin America, Europe, and Oceania. Worth noting, Oceania has never won an international championships, not even one of their own. Obviously, they did win Worlds, which is more important.
It's still an international tournament. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest one.
Henry won the World Championships back in 2019. Yeah, I mean, we're in Oceania. It feels like it would be poetic justice for Oceania to get a win on the home turf, right?
Yeah.
And just numbers wise, there's going to be the most Oceania players here as well.
So are you saying you're picking Oceania?
What are you picking?
What region is Japan from?
Japan is Japan.
It's Japan. Well, I know Daiichi's here, and at least Daiichi's here, so I'm picking Japan. We're gonna go.
You're just going Daiichi?
I know Daiichi's here. I don't know who else is coming. I saw a couple other Japanese players on Twitter,
Okay.
tweeting out that they registered for the tournament. The only one I remember is Daiichi, so I'm going Japan. There's a couple other ones. It could be Daiichi, but yeah, hopefully that's why Japan. They love that. Hey, they might have the Radiant Eternatus and the Sky Sealstone decks back. They
It would
always
be
bring.
so hype if Shintaro was here.
Yeah, they always bring. They just deck build differently, like for sure. I think on average, right? We see that pretty
The
consistently.
whole culture around Pokemon is just different there. Too.
Yeah, it's different. So like they could. I think they might have. They also could just be playing Lugia, so that's cool too. I guess. Which you can't go wrong with that either to pick one of them to win. So I'm gonna go with Japan winning OCIC.
I'm gonna say
That would suck for the Australians though. The Japanese players are coming over here and taking their seat.
yeah, because Japan, like the CP that they get just goes to the.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything to them.
I'm gonna go with an Oceania player. Just
odds.
the numbers. Yeah, I mean the numbers are pretty strong for it, but also obviously some incredible players here, and yeah, I mean I think that they're overdue for an internationals win for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's all the predictions we wrote down. Azul. Yeah, I think that is it for this week's episode. Unless you got anything else you want to say.
No, I'm good. Send us out, Chip.
Yeah, thanks so much to everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, the special in-person episode of the podcast. Thanks so much for the support. As always, if you did enjoy, please be sure to give us a rating on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, be sure to leave us a like, subscribe over on the YouTube channel. These are the quickest and easiest ways to support the podcast. It's free for you and takes just a few seconds to do it. If you want to stay up to date with us, the best way to do that is going to be over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG, and you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, appreciate the support as always. Good luck in the tournament if you're playing this weekend in Australia, and catch y'all next week, Tuesdays, 7 a.m. Eastern. Peace.
I will say next week we might not be Tuesday because we're both getting home late Monday, right? So
Well, I get home Sunday, so this would be on you. Maybe Wednesday, might be Tuesday. Probably Wednesday. Probably Wednesday. See y'all next Wednesday, and then to the regular date the week after, Tuesday.
there we go.
Peace.